Three, two, one, let's go. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode on the George Habib podcast. I'm going to have two new amazing guests over here. Well, one's not new. You guys know him from previous episode, but you're going to see him again. And the other guy is nice, brand new, and I'm pretty sure he's awesome. Let's see if he proves that today. But the topic is harmless fun or pretty obsessive cope. What is the place of fantasy in today's society? We're going to talk about comics, cartoons, gaming, and all the other jazz. And yeah, we'll see what we come up with in terms of points. So I introduced my guests to the scene. First, you guys have seen him before. You guys are going to see him again. We have Chris Schnabel of
Woohoo!
Schnabel Studios.
Yes, Novel Studios and sketching up, which is why we're great for this podcast.
Beauty. How's it going, Chris?
It's going good. Thanks for having me back on. I enjoyed our conversation last time, and I'm excited to talk about this. Obviously, as you can tell by my background, I have some experience in the fantasy world.
100%. I know a lot of people love that last episode, so pretty sure this one's
I
going to be
love them
fun too.
too.
And now we have our guest of honor, the number 3 to this threesome. We have Kyle Scott. Kyle Scott, welcome to the three-way.
Yo, what's happening, bro? How are you, man?
Doing good, doing good. I'm cold, I'm broke, I live in Canada, so both come with the country.
Hey, bro, I'm sorry, bro. It's kind of cold in Georgia, but probably not as cold as what you at. Because like for us, cold is like
Get out of here.
like
He said he's in Canada. You're like, oh, it's
50 degrees,
probably
bro.
kind of cold. You're in
Like
Atlanta,
unless you're like
dude.
in Alaska, I don't know about that, bro.
See, I'm in. We're 50 degrees, and you see what I'm wearing right now in the house. So you know what I'm saying. It's comfortable. So
I think it's pretty
Yeah,
nice.
okay. Saying 50 degrees, I gotta ask the question: are we talking about like Fahrenheit or what the rest of the world uses?
oh,
Oh, this is
I'm
America.
no,
He's
no.
talking Fahrenheit.
Oh no, we're talking Fahrenheit, homie. I'm sorry, I'm American. That's all we know. I'm not even gonna lie to you, dog.
He only talks America.
Yeah, man. Look, bro.
Speak American here.
You know, hey man, look, I'm sorry. How are you though? You know, I hope you're doing good, George.
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Living, socializing. Mommy told me to get out more, so I'm meeting people in real life online.
That's good.
Same
Not
here.
both, just in real life online.
No, I mean it's okay because my mom used to tell me to be nice to people. Maybe you'll get a friend or two. So I feel you.
And here's two right here.
You know what
Actually,
I'm saying? Like
I don't
met
know if
Schnabel.
I don't know if you can consider him a friend yet because he said, "Let's see if he's cool." In the beginning,
mean,
he didn't say he is
hey,
cool. He
man,
said, "Let's see."
I ain't even mad, man. You know what I'm saying? You always gotta test the waters with somebody when you first meet them, bro. You know what I'm saying? So I feel you.
100%. But me, I have this terrible gift where it's a gift and a curse. The gift is I can spot all of a person's red flags.
Okay.
The curse is it's only 6 months
Ooh.
into a relationship with them.
Oh, so are you like one of those people you can spot it instantly, or is you one of those people you got to get to know them before you spot it for real?
Oh no, I gotta get to know them. I gotta make it my girlfriend. They gotta move in with me. We gotta get a cat together, and then my red flag spotting powers activate.
Like
Dog. Hey,
that.
so
Yeah,
So-
yeah, just like 6 month
Like,
recharge.
Pete
So
me,
by then it's
George.
just too late.
so Pete me, George, we're gonna bring you down to Atlanta, and I'm gonna do you. We're gonna give you some training. We're gonna give you some training, dog. Because when you come down here, we can't let you get scammed by a pretty face and a big butt. You feel me? So we're gonna set you right. We're gonna set you right. It's certain keywords, body languages, bro. It's easy. It's like math. We learned
speaking
it
of fantasies,
bro. I'm telling
we're
you,
not gonna
bro.
let you. We're gonna letting you get scooped
Nope.
up into a fantasy.
We not, and I got you, George. And trust me, red flags is easy as 1, 2, 3. We learned it in elementary school. You feel me? I got you.
We're teaching the real things in America.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
100%, 100%.
We can't do our taxes, but red flags like that.
Yeah, but like
feel
doesn't
me?
doesn't like the IRA
Got
just do
you.
the taxes for you, but they don't tell you?
Yeah, and then when they
Yeah.
decide that they want to,
audit
get
you.
a little more money,
They just audit
give
you. You know what I'm saying? Take some of your money.
Sentence.
Anyways, guys, this is becoming a little too real. I'm not here to talk about adult life. I'm here to talk about what
Okay.
distracts us from adult life, and that is fantasy. So, regarding fantasy, boys, what do you think when it comes to fantasy these days?
I would say, like, what do I personally think, or like what do I think the
Like what
fantasy
comes to
world?
mind?
Well, I think with today, with the way today is, when fantasy comes to mind, you're thinking like fandom things such as, superhero movies, which have basically taken over cinema and kind of ruined a little bit, and like IPs like that. Um, I think I would say comic books and video games are probably the biggest things today. Not comic book movies and video games are two biggest fantasy things, and I think Kyle would say that anime is up there as well. I'll let him take that one though.
Mhm. Yeah, like I personally think anime is also like a huge fantasy because they also do have a fantasy element. Like they have fantasy tropes, you know what I'm saying? Fantasy settings. But also like so if you really want to get into the topic for real, George, like yes, I can see where yes, it depends on you as a person and it depends on what you're coping with and it depends on how you cope with things. So I'm a binge watcher, right? Like I'm really good at it. So like some people might think, oh, you're a binge watcher, you're probably just at the house all day. Don't get me wrong. Pay $1,900 in rent. Stay at the crib a lot. Yes, I do. Because I want to enjoy it.
Jeez.
But yeah, bro. Yeah, bro. Welcome. So I'm just saying, like, it just depends on who you are as a person. Because I've met some people where anime is their entire life, their entire being. Like they don't understand what normal reality is, but they do understand everything anime. You feel me? And I also know some people who they just watch it here and there sometimes when it's cool. So I guess it just depends on who you are as a person and how you balance your life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, but like in your case, the poison is, well, not poison. Like you're
Oh,
specifically
my
about like the
favorite.
anime and manga
Oh,
life.
mine is anime, and then I play a little bit of video games, but not like a lot.
Mm,
But I'm playing a little more now, but not as a lot. But it's not as a lot as normal people. But yeah, I'm more of an anime guy. Like,
right.
yeah, I like watching. I can watch a bunch of. I'm a binge watcher because I like knowing. I like seeing, being able to see the whole story whenever I want to, and I don't have to wait for it. I'm just one of those
Right.
people. Like I don't
No,
like
I enjoy
commercials.
manga too, man. Like some of my favorites out there right now is Kengan Ashura. And
Okay.
for those anime lovers or manga lovers out there, Ganga Ashura is like Baki the Grappler, but way less
Mhm.
homoerotic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what
So
any of
yeah,
that
that's
is.
very anime specific. I don't know if you guys are aware of Kengan Ashura.
No. It's okay. I like that. Since I mean, okay, so you know it's an anime I do like that I need to watch, but I haven't seen in it in a while. Have you ever seen Saga of Tanya the Terrible?
No, is that like the little girl with the horns or something?
Yeah, she's like a little girl in the military who just runs in there and basically just she just enjoys her job shooting people in the military.
Huh?
Oh yeah, and then she moves up
Some
in
bad
rank.
passion.
Oh, bro, if you like Baki and things like that, homeboy, you should watch that, bro, because she is a smoke
Mhm.
demon.
I'll watch it once One Piece finishes, let's say.
Bro, One
Good
Piece
luck
is
with
not gonna
that.
finish until that's never gonna finish,
I
bro.
got
I'm
enough life
actually
expectancy for that.
okay. So is you caught up on One Piece?
Oh yeah, yeah.
All right,
Been
all
following
right.
it
So
since
holla
like
at me
I was a
then,
kid.
bro. Holla at me then, George. I'm caught up, homie.
Okay, but like a little distraction from the topic. Who's your favorite character?
Crocodile.
Crocodile.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like
Who's yours?
Crocodile. It's pretty cool. Me, my one's gotta be my man Zoro.
So I can
The guy's beast
ha.
mode all the way.
The king of hell. I understand.
King of hell. I don't know, Chris, if you're big into One Piece or manga. I think your flavor's more North American.
So this is great because for everybody that's listening, we co-host a show called Sketching Up on Schnabel Studios, and it's a running joke for 104 episodes now, maybe 105. I don't even remember anymore. That I don't really watch anime. It's not that I don't really like it. I just never have gotten into it, and I don't really watch TV as a whole, believe it or not, even though we do this those podcasts and stuff like that. I just usually don't have time to do it with all the stuff I'm usually doing. But it's like a running joke where Kyle will talk about with our other co-host Matt, or if we have a guest, we have a friend Joe Brown who hosts the Pokemon podcast. He comes on all the time, and they'll talk anime. And we bring all these people in to talk anime for the specific reason that I do not watch it, and Kyle needs to talk about it. So it's a running joke of I don't watch it, so we have to like actually physically bring people into the show to make sure Kyle can get his points off. Happens all the time.
100%. And if you guys want to know what that channel is, the links are down below. So I recommend
100%.
subscribing. But yeah, so I think we're pretty much well rounded on like the fantasy medium around there.
Mhm.
We got Chris with the comics, cartoons. We got Kyle with the manga and anime. I'm also a bit of manga, anime, cartoons, and comics. But my deal is basically, I don't know if you guys know Warhammer.
I've
I
heard of
do
it.
know. I've never played it.
Yeah, but I've heard
My
of it.
girlfriend's brothers, Chuck and John, love Warhammer, and they really want me to get into it. And I'm trying to find time to learn how to play it. So maybe we can help each other out here.
I don't play it. I just read the books, man. It's
Oh, you just
too
read the books.
expensive to
Okay.
play. I don't got that kind of money.
See, I didn't even know it's too expensive because I have literally
It is
zero clue how to play.
extremely expensive. But yeah, but the point is like we got a bit of everything here. I'm also big into gaming, Fallout, Crusader Kings, stuff like that.
Spider-Man
PUBG.
2.
But so yeah, so the point of this part is like we got all these different things out there, games, comic books, anime, manga, all that kind of jazz. Like why do we enjoy these things? Why is there so many people out there? They'll spend like thousands of dollars individually, and countries will spend billions of dollars like as an industry to get into all these kind of segments of fantasy. Like, I want to get your guys' opinions on that. Are we running away for something, or is this stuff actually attracting us? There's a magnetism.
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean,
Mhm.
you can do things like play games or watch shows because you are like have certain feelings that you just need to kind of get lost in something. Like I've had times where like I just kind of needed to pick me up. Kyle is in the same boat. We love Steven Universe, and Kyle actually turned me on to Steven Universe years ago. And it's just like such an uplifting show. It's like something like when you're kind of feeling down, you can watch. It's a very easy watch. They're 11-minute episodes. Like, so sometimes you do that because of feelings. Other times you just do it for pure enjoyment. Like I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. He's my favorite superhero. I pre-ordered Spider-Man 2 the second you can do it, and I beat the game in a weekend. I didn't do it because of anything other than I just love the character. I love the story. I just love I love everything that has to do with Spider-Man. So like I don't think it's necessarily one or the other. Kyle, maybe think a little different, but I think that yeah, some things sometimes you have your coping mechanisms that you're going to go to that are kind of taking you away from the real world because you just need a break from it, a mental break from it. But then other times I think you do it just out of pure enjoyment or pure like creativity. Again, another thing I love to do, I'm a creative person, and seeing other creatives helps me be creative. Like seeing how people do things helps draw creativity out of me. So like there's a bunch of different reasons that I think that for me personally do things.
Yeah, so like it's basically fun. You make a community out of it.
Yeah.
And what about you, Kyle? What's your thoughts on that?
I'm the same way because I like to have a good balance. Just because I've I known, just because I've moved around a lot, lived in different places. Like I've met many different people, so I've met people who were anime was their life. Like I said before, where like anime was their life. Like I met some real life bronies and furries. You know what I'm saying? Like that was
Yeah.
the oddest experience I've ever had. Like, bro,
It's
I'm
the oddest
18.
hobby you ever picked up.
No, not me, dog. That's not what we do,
So,
homie.
so for you viewers out there who don't know what a furry is, I'm just going to pull this up,
Well, you
and
don't have to
I'm
pull it
just
up,
going to
Kyle.
make
Just
sure
explain
the
it.
safe search is on like the highest filter there is to keep it PG.
Please do, because it gets real weird.
Kyle's gonna kill me after this one.
Let's see, is it furry fandom? But no, that is not the page I wanted. The page I wanted is
Just show the regular stuff. Please don't show the weird stuff.
is it this one?
Kyle, why
Yeah.
don't you just explain
Okay,
what it
yeah.
is?
So yeah, this is basically a furry. I'm afraid to scroll down. I'm
Please
afraid to
don't.
click anything. But
Please
yeah, this is like Kyle, as our resident furry expert, what is a furry?
Okay, so a furry is a
Just look at the second. Just look at the second picture. I think it explains everything.
Yeah, it's people who have a fetish of watching animals basically have sex with each other. You know
But
what I'm saying?
it's not just
But
animals.
it's not just animals. It's humanoid
animal.
animals. It's humanoid animals. So it's like, so this is when you'll see the people who will be like the cat girls or like the dog girls or like the wolf girls or like all that kind of stuff. I mean, dudes do it too, but it's more like no, it's a little equal. And then it's a little equal. It gets a little weird. It's a little weird. And then also I met a brony. And a brony is the same thing, but it's just a My Little Pony. So it's people.
Wait, hold on. I don't think it's the same thing. I thought
no, it's
brony,
not the same
it's
thing,
just
but it's
a
in the
My Little
same
Pony
realm.
fan.
It's in the same
that's
realm.
A man.
Yeah,
sorry
it's
guys,
in the
I
same
couldn't keep
realm.
that up there any longer.
No,
okay.
Please don't. That was making me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's in the same realm. I'm sorry. Let me be more specific. Schnabel.
They don't want to.
It's
they
more
don't want
in
to
the,
get with My Little Ponies.
No. Yes, they do.
Is that true though? Like, is that
no? I'm
this
dead
is actually
serious.
a question. This is a question.
No.
Chris,
This is
you're
a question.
questioning
Oh
an
no,
expert here.
Oh no, homeboy. Some of them really do get off on My Little Pony for real because they got some X-rated My Little Pony stuff. Like,
that's crazy. I mean, there's X-rated everything though, right?
Yeah,
like you can find X-rated anything you want.
And they were really into it. They had like the whole BDSM thing. It was too much for me, bro. I was like, I don't like
yeah, but it's not all that. Like,
no, it's not all
fantasy
that
world, that's probably like a big extreme of it.
Yeah,
that's the extreme fantasy world.
It's a spectrum. Here's what I'll say. It's a spectrum. It's just like with everything. It's a spectrum. There's very extreme.
I feel like we also got like stuff like this, which is LARPing, where people put like a lot of thought into their costumes.
Yeah, cosplay. It's basically
they dress up as whatever this is.
What's the difference between like LARPing and being really into like a reenactment though? It's kind of like close to the same thing, right? Yeah, it's close
the same
to
thing.
Like, I get one has historical value and one has fantasy value, but you're still neither of them actually are happening, right? Like you're using your imagination on both of them. You're being brought to a different world and that you're getting away from your regular life, right?
Right. And you're kind of experiencing something that you want to experience. Yeah. So like with some people, and then also it's also something good to where people can get like a side of themselves out. Because like some people have like a side of themselves they got pent up or whatever. And anime is the medium that brings it out, or LARPing is something that brings it out, or cosplaying is something that brings it out. And then you have other people who join in, and then now you made friends and blah, 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 blah. So that's where it could be good. But then we can have the extreme examples that I was just talking about with the furries and the bronies, where it's unhealthy. So I just see it just depends on how the person is. You know what I'm saying? And like what they've gone through. Because some people also dive into, like when my mother died, like I went into a whole say what?
Rest her soul.
Oh yeah, rest her soul. That was an OG right there, man. You know what I'm saying? Real big gangster. But I really got into One Piece. So like that's how I really learned. Like that's when I really watched like a smooth 1,000 episodes of One Piece, just because I was just like grieving. So I was just at the house just watching One Piece, and I was just like, oh, okay, cool. It gave me like a smooth temporary like break away from like that whole situation. So like there's sometimes where it's good, sometimes where it's bad. So it just depends on what you do with it, I guess.
Right. So the good about it is like you're going through a tough time and it's kind of like your coping mechanism. Something pretty serious happened in your life. So now you just want to like, like look away from that. You kind of just want to go into something easy and fun and enjoyable. You're basically looking into the daydreams of another person because, One Piece is written by Ichiro Oda, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just plain fun. I'm assuming, Chris, you also get the same with comics where I'm not sure what your flavor is there, Marvel or DC, but like you look into the art of like Stan Lee or Kirby, or I'm not quite sure who the artists on DC side are.
Yeah, I'm more of a Marvel person and I like Image Comics a lot. Really quick, but go off what Kyle's saying. I think one of the goods as well is, and he touched on it pretty well. One thing about getting into a fantasy land and getting really involved in something like LARPing or something like an anime or the comic book scene or something like that, is you get that sense of community. And for some people, it's like, you could talk to anybody and be friends with anybody. But for other people, like they may be more shy or may not be able to make friends or meet people like that. But like, like if you have that same comic book, you're watching that same anime, you already have an interest there. You have something you can build off of, and then you can figure out if this is somebody you actually want to be friends with or not. Like, but you don't have to worry about like, oh, what if I bring up a topic and they know nothing about it? Like, you could just be like, oh, you also read Spider-Man? Like, this is awesome. Or you also watch One Piece? Like, who's your favorite character? Just like you guys did right in the beginning, right? When you're meeting each other, like, oh, who's your favorite character off One Piece? Boom, right there. You already have a mutual thing that you can connect over. So I think it's that sense of community as well as what draws people to things like this. Just like anything that you can have a mutual like of. But anyway, you said, was it Marvel or DC comic books? I like Marvel comic books. My favorite one is Invincible. My other favorite one, I love the Scott Pilgrim series as well.
Based in Toronto.
I know, yeah, based in Toronto. And by the time this comes out, the new series will be out on Netflix. It drops.
It's already out now.
17th, the 17th. So that's exciting. But anyway, other than that, I like that stuff because you can find relatability in it. Like that's why I like Spider-Man so much. Actually, Kyle and I just talked about this because we were both playing the Spider-Man game, which we got to talk off air. If you beat it without calling me, I'm gonna be so mad because you're supposed to call me.
I haven't played it, dingus.
All right, good. Well, no, you said you were gonna call me before the podcast.
I haven't played it. I haven't played it yet.
Good.
Did you see my icon pop up on the PS5?
I wasn't on PS5.
I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so we were talking about Spider-Man. I was saying how Peter Parker is my favorite Spider-Man, and like even though I don't have super strength or like I'm not smart like that, like or at all, like there's so much relatability with Peter Parker that I can relate into my own life. And like
you don't have Spidey senses.
Oh, I do have that. I just don't have the super strength.
I got Spidey senses too. My therapist calls it anxiety, but I know what Spidey senses are.
No, Spidey sense, dog.
Yeah, Spidey senses. That's all it is. I mean, have you seen anything with Peter Parker that is like the most anxious person on the planet? He's anxious about everything that happens. Like that's a Spidey sense though, because it's Peter Parker.
I think you get a bit of different stuff with each Peter Parker. Like with the Tobey Maguire Peter Parker, I didn't feel anxiety. I just felt like an internal rage. But I think that was more Tobey Maguire in real life than it was Peter Parker.
Yeah, because he's always mad at everything going on.
Always mad.
He's always mad. I loved Tobey Maguire, and I loved all three of them, honestly, although Spider-Man 2 was not my favorite. Actually, when I first saw The Amazing Spider-Man 1, not Spider-Man 2, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I need to make that clear because Spider-Man 2, the Raimi, might be one of the best ones ever. But The Amazing Spider-Man 1 I thought was good, but like I didn't really enjoy it till the second time around. So The Amazing Spider-Man 2 I never really enjoyed, but I do like Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. They all bring their thing, but I'm talking about the Peter Parker like you get from the comics, whether it be the originals or the Ultimate series, which was pretty good, or even the New Age series. The Zeb Wells one, a lot of people don't like the Zeb Wells take on it, but like you still get that Peter Parker, like he's witty, but he's also going through a hell of a lot of stuff. And even though it might not compare to you in the same way, like everybody's going through something, everybody's got bills to pay, everybody has all these different struggles in their life, and you can kind of relate to it. Same thing with Invincible. Like my dad doesn't, destroy planets or anything like that, but you have family issues, you have issues outside of that, like that you can relate in that way, whatever it may be. My favorite take on superheroes, especially not in comic book form, but in like media such as movies and TV shows, my favorite one is when they're in school, whether it be high school, college, whatever, because I feel like those are the most relatable places you could see. Like they always start there, right? The origin stories. Peter Parker started in high school. Like when the new Miss Marvel came out, my favorite part of it was when she was actually in Jersey City in school. Like you can kind of think back, it makes you nostalgic, but you can also, high school for everybody may have been different, but it's always the same, right? There's that same core element no matter where you went to high school. There's the same core element.
The jocks, the bullies, the cool kids, the losers, the nerds.
Going to class,
the vegans,
class for something crazy at least once while you're in school. Like, everything. There's all those tropes that's why since the 80s, high school movies have been successful, right? And they still to this day are. So there's nostalgia of high school, and then there's also that like, oh man, we totally did something crazy as well. And then you think of that, and so I think that's why.
What's interesting is what's interesting for me is that everything you're saying about like Spider-Man and Peter Parker, like how you found that relatable, his high school phase. For me, that was Harry Potter. Because I don't know if you guys
Mm.
have read Harry Potter, but like it is basically like following a little kid from like elementary into like the end of high school. I mean, sure, he's like battling racist wizards and stuff like that. But like, you know, like there was the little scenes like in Harry Potter where they're just talking about him living in a dorm, dealing with like bullies and friends and just all the normal school stuff. Like when I was like 8 years old reading that, like that's what I could relate to. And like what I like about J.K. Rowling, the author, is that you know there's some media like there's some stories you follow where it's just static, like no one grows up or anything, like Ben 10, I guess. But then
Mhm.
like with Harry Potter, you could start book one at age 10 or 11. I believe that's what Harry how old Harry was when he started, and then like you grow up with Harry if you pace yourself. Because like in the beginning it was just like trolls and witches and gumdrops and stuff, and then by the last book like people are full on dying, getting torn apart, and like there was that famous scene where like one of her characters like says a curse. So like you kind
Which
of like that's why I
which
respect J.K. Rowling. You grow up with it.
which book was this? I didn't read the books. I
Deathly
did
Hollows
watch
Part
the
Two.
movies. Gotcha.
Yeah. So like I totally get what you're saying. Like it is. I feel like it's easier for kids, teenagers, and even young adults to like relate to something that's at least fun to read instead of just having them like read an autobiography of someone in high school in the 70s and they just like describe it word for word.
Yeah, well, you're talking about like the fantasy of it. Like there, if you're reading it word for word, this is legitimate things that happen. It's probably not as exciting, but like because they're writers doing this, very smart people. That's why they went on strike because they knew like they're the ones that make the ship run, right? Like you're going to get the most not only nostalgic experience, but you're going to get like a really blown up experience as well. Like it's not going to be like a normal, like, oh, I went to my locker, I opened it and I closed it. Like something crazy is going to happen in between there. And like that's what draws you in. If it's just someone talking about when I was in high school, I did a paper and it won an award. It's like, who cares? Like we've done that before. Like maybe not won an award
Nerd.
winning paper, but you did something, right? Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Nerd. But like, Peter Parker goes to his locker and his professor, Dr. Connors, turned into the lizard. It's crawling on the ceiling. You're like, oh, okay, this is crazy.
That's kind of
Like
crazy.
then the
Yeah, totally
nostalgia brought
relatable.
you in, then but the nostalgia brings you in, and then the story keeps you there. So,
Yeah,
and
I
that's what I
agree with
like
you
about
there.
that's what I like about Invincible. By the way, exactly what you said with Harry Potter. Like in the books of Invincible, like, and I guess with the show it'll probably do it as well. The show is pretty good as well, but the books you grow with Mark Grayson. Like you see him start as this high school kid that like is just getting his powers, and you go all the way to the end, like all 244 issues or whatever. Like you're watching him grow and you're growing with him. So that's why. And then Peter Parker, you do the same. I think that's actually why the game got so big, other than the story is great, because we're
Mhm.
so used to that high school version of Peter Parker. But like with our age group, that like 20, let's say 24 to like 35 age group, it's really popular with them because he's like 26 years old. He's
True.
failing at his jobs. He's failing at his
True.
relationships. Like that's what draws us in because we're already drawn into Spider-Man. We know the origin. We know the high school part. Like now here's like, this is like 26 to 28-year-old Spider-Man that's like
Yeah.
struggling to stay afloat. Like that's what draws us
Yeah.
in. Now it's the relatability.
It's very relatable.
True, but like then I want to ask like all this fantasy stuff when it comes to comic books, manga, and books. Like, are we attracted to the trope? Like, are we attracted to superheroes and wizards and vampires and whatever's, or are we attracted to like the story, like the relatable story the author is trying to get across? Because I assume there's many authors out there like they are trying to get their own personal story across in a fantasy setting, and then you kind of relate to that. But then there's like I don't know, fan service people who just write absolute garbage. And I'm going to refer Twilight in this, where it's like, I don't know what the message is behind like sparkly vampires who like watch 16-year-olds while they sleep. But like, yeah, are we attracted to the author or are we attracted to the trope?
I think we're more attracted to what we see in ourselves personally. So I'll say this: as when I was a youth, right? I was, and Schnabel can attest to this. I was highly aggressive, right? I was very aggressive, kind of like, slightly angry a lot, right? So everything that I listened to was aggressive. Everything that I watched was aggressive or crude or violent. You know what I'm saying? Like everything I consumed, like the way I talked, the way I walked, the way I act, like everything was like that. But then as I grew up and got a little more emotionally stable and things like that, like a lot of the things that I like started to change. You know what I'm saying? Like the people I hung around started to change. You know what I'm saying? Like the activities that I started doing started changing. So I really think what really draws us into a lot of things is like what we can see relatable in our own lives, or what's relatable to ourselves, or like what we see in ourselves. Like I watched man, what anime was I watching? I was watching like I was watching My Hero Academia, right? And I
Oh
seen
yeah.
Endeavor. You've watched My Hero, so you're a My Hero fan?
I've watched. I wouldn't call myself a fan, but I definitely watched it.
Okay.
What I keep going back to is like Might. What's his name? All Might's fight.
Mm-hmm.
But the person I actually like more than All Might, and again, this is very specific, is
Okay.
Endeavor.
Okay.
You
Speaking
know
of
when he
Endeavor,
goes like full flame and like kills
yeah.
the monster. That was my favorite in My Hero Academia. That's my favorite scene.
Okay. So speaking of Endeavor, right? So Endeavor goes on a whole character arc, right? Have you did you watch that season where he went on his character arc with his family and all of that?
I think I read it. It was a while
Okay.
ago.
So like with that trope, like that really hit home to me because like I had a whole thing with me and my family kind of like broke off, and I wasn't close to my family for a while. And then I kind of like made amends a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So like when it came to My Hero, that's what made My Hero really stick with me hard body, because I really loved Endeavor, because I was like, I can relate to Endeavor. You know what I'm saying? Like Endeavor was highly aggressive. He only cared about himself and his goals. And I was like that a little bit. So I can see myself in Endeavor, you know what I'm saying? Or see my old
Yeah.
self in Endeavor. So that's what really attracted me to like My Hero. Also, like when I was younger, before I hit puberty, I was always like I was weak. You know what I'm saying? Like I was a mama's boy. I was weak. I cried a lot. You know what I'm saying? So like but once I hit puberty, and then like, because like my siblings are like, I'm the youngest of 6 kids, so like all my siblings were like athletes, so like everybody was competitive and aggressive and physical prowess. You know what I'm saying? So you being the youngest and the weakest of the bunch and cried a lot, like that doesn't fare well. You know what I'm saying? So like
I mean, if
once
you
I
do it in
got,
public, yeah,
oh yeah, man, it was, man,
that
what?
doesn't fare well in high school at all.
No, it doesn't. But here's the crazy part. When I got into middle school and I started hitting puberty, and then when I realized that you don't hit harder than my 25-year-old brother,
Oof.
and then that's when everything changed. But you know what I'm saying? But even the stuff, even like a lot of things I related to back then. So like that's why I like Deku, because I remember, because watching Deku being weak at one point and then getting strong, I was like, oh, that was me. You know what I'm saying? Like everything changed for me in fourth grade. You feel me? Like out of nowhere, I just got naturally strong out of nowhere. So like I understood Deku trying to figure out like his whole strength thing, because like action novel, like I was super strong. So like even to this day, like I don't know how to live without being like stronger than the normal human. Like it's just like I just be moving stuff just for no reason, just boom, and just like if I was never naturally strong, like my life would be totally different. So like I can relate to that trope. That's all.
I feel like you brought up a great point about living in a fantasy world there, but I don't even think you realized you brought it up. Like
Not
I
at
think
all.
another reason we go into these stories, whether it be comic books or anime, especially like if it's for when you need to feel better, is like sometimes you need to see somebody get a win to get yourself to get a win, basically. You know,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you need to see somebody get out of a hole to help yourself get out of a hole. Like if you think of like superpower. Like I keep going back to Spider-Man, but let's just go back to Spider-Man. Like, yeah, he needed superpowers to beat Rhino, but like him being Spider-Man didn't help him, with MJ or Gwen Stacy or whomever. It didn't help him with his getting his bills paid. Like, it doesn't help him with any of that, right? Like, that's the human in him. So like when he pays his bills or he fixes a relationship, you're like, that's a win. Like, you need to see that. And sometimes you don't get to see it in real life. Like, what are you going to do? Go to the news to see a win? No. Like, you got to go to
Especially not
somewhere
these
where you
days.
could see it. Yeah. Especially not like any days. Like, I don't think you can really ever go to the news and see a win. But like, so that you go to maybe, like, I'm not just even talking, let's not even talk that. Like, you go watch a show like, Scrubs or Modern Family, or, you watch something that has the happy ending where you see a family come together, you see people come together, you see a problem. It's been a sitcom thing since the 80s, right? Oh no, I did something. How am I going to solve it? Well, I just solved it. End of episode. Like, that's how it always, and everybody comes together and loves each other at the end. Like, it's always the thing. So I think that's kind of another reason that you get people that go into like video games. Like, maybe you're having a down day, you go into a video game and you can beat it. Like, that's just like that confidence is rebuilt,
Yeah. But
Like,
but the thing is, like, that's assuming all the fantasy media does that. Like, all the fantasy media is like relatable, like Peter Parker, or inspiring, like Deku in My Hero Academia. But like, do we see any media out there where it's just like shallow? Like, there's really no point to it. It's just like for mass production, teaches you nothing and brings
well,
you
I
There's
mean,
nowhere.
tons. Yeah.
well, there's always that. There's always going to be low hanging fruit. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like, I mean, let me see.
There's things you do just to kind of like, sometimes you just need to let your brain be dead, right? Like,
Yeah.
sometimes you just need to mellow out. It's the
You just
same.
turn it off.
Some people do. There, people take all different routes, right? I'm not going to name any of the routes. Some people take all
Yeah.
different routes, but sometimes you just watch something you can get lost in, like a comedy TV show, or you know what a big one is. If you want to talk about TV, like reality TV. There is no point to reality TV, but
Zero.
people love it because of the drama and because of this and that. And you can shut your brain off for 30 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
You can just shut your brain
I've
off.
never really been
Do that.
big watcher of reality TV. I mostly watch documentaries. Like, there's this documentary based in New Jersey called Jersey Shore. There's this documentary about this Armenian family making in the States called Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Yeah, I'm more of a documentary
Yeah,
person.
you're a big documentary person. What's the
Really
difference
big.
between the two, right? What's the difference between the two?
No clue, man. Like you are documenting their lives,
Their
but I would
history.
argue
Yeah.
reality shows are pretty
It's just a
scripted.
documentary.
Yes, reality shows are very scripted, because if you really took the reality of most people's lives, even people like the Kardashians, it probably wouldn't be as entertaining. Like,
But I remember watching this documentary about I think she was like the national treasure of America. Like, this little girl, Honey Boo Boo.
Oh my God! Don't talk about Honey Boo Boo.
I was
dog.
honestly waiting to see where you were going, because I had, when you said national treasure, I'm like, okay. And then you're like, this little girl. I'm like, I still don't really know where he's going. Because, like, what is Honey Boo Boo? Like 15 years ago? Like,
Boomers
Honey
would have
Boo
said Shirley
Boo.
Temple or something, but I guess the Shirley Temple of our time is Baby Boo Boo.
well,
Honey Boo Boo
she
is a
doesn't have a drink
Oh,
named
Honey
after her.
Boo Boo.
Although a drink named the Honey Boo Boo would probably do pretty well.
It probably would though. I think it would do
might
really well.
might do better than the Shirley Temple.
A ton of
Right,
sugar, and then
right.
you just end up on the toilet.
Yeah.
You
Well,
need two toilets for both ends.
Okay.
a bucket in a toilet. That's how they got.
But yeah, so that, like, just to bring it back to the topic, because I diverted us a bit. So, like, that's
what are
the
you
good of the
doing?
fantasy, It's a distraction from the harder aspects of life. It can be a place to form communities, like at Comic-Con conventions, movie
Online
showing,
chats.
stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. And whatever that thing is, where a bunch of stormtroopers will just show up out of nowhere, like in like clone, like, in the clone armor from Star Wars. Whatever that is, I just know it exists. And like, also, like in the case of Kyle, it can be something inspiring, like with My Hero Academia. But now, like, I kind of want to get into the negative of it, because we are giving it, like, we are painting it in a positive light. But I have seen a lot of negatives where, like, for example, with you, Kyle, like, you got motivated by seeing Deku getting stronger and stronger. But I've seen a lot of people like love Deku, and all they do is just wear the costume and then cope and just watch the show. They never work out, they never get stronger, they never face their fears.
Well, I mean, that's a personal problem with them at the end of the day. You feel me? Like I can only do what I can control, which is me.
Kyle,
So what's up?
I'm gonna stop you there. I completely disagree with it's a them problem. It's this. I think you could say yes, maybe it is a them problem, but I feel like it's the same thing as somebody getting addicted to anything else, like the dopamine, the happiness, the enjoyment, and you know what, the not settling, the like what am I trying to look for? Like it's a common ground. It's something you know.
It's a
Like you know,
cope.
it's not something.
a
It's
comfort
not
zone.
something. A
It's
comfort zone. Thank you. This is why
It's a
we're a great
comfort zone.
team.
Yeah,
It's why we're a great team. So it's like a comfort zone. Like you're in your comfort zone. You don't have to worry about anything. You know what's gonna happen. No matter if you've seen an episode or not, you know what's gonna happen.
And
so
you don't leave.
And you don't leave, but why would you want to? Like you're
Yeah, because
comfortable. Like why would you want to do anything else?
Because like I'll see a lot of guys online and even at conventions, like they'll see like some old school anime or cartoons like Dragon Ball Z. They'll see the old Batman and Superman. They'll see crap like Slam Dunk. You know, I don't know if you guys know Slam Dunk. It's an anime, or like some old school Baki the Grappler, and then they'll turn from a nerd into, like, if you look at them now, they're like just a super shredded buff dude, because those guys were inspired, like Kyle referred to. But then I'm going to see other people, like they watch like the latest stuff. Like if we're talking about anime, we're talking about like Fairy Tale, or Kyle knows what I'm talking about. Or if we're talking about comics, I don't really know the equivalency in comics, but
it's okay. I don't really
they just
know if I know
hide
the
in it. You know, they're
equivalency
not. They just hide in it, and then they start referring to the comics and manga as if it's real life. Because I got baby cousins. I call them baby cousins. They're a bit older. They're super. Some of them are super into Naruto, and then they'll come up to me and be like, "It's like Kakashi Sensei always says," or it's like what's his name, Jiraiya. It's like Jiraiya. Like they'll be quoting anime characters, but they won't be quoting like people in real life. Like they won't be talking about people in actual sports. Like they won't be talking about what's his name? He just never retires in
LeBron
football.
James?
He never like they're not talking about Michael Jordan, LeBron James.
Tom Brady did retire.
Tom Brady, you talking about Tom Brady?
He did retire.
Yeah,
no way,
he
he's gonna
retired
come
some
back.
time ago. Yeah,
he's gonna make his comeback at 55 or something. But the point is, like, they're not being inspired in real life. They're not being inspired like about Malcolm X and Frank. They're not looking to people who actually existed before them, and they're not trying to see like those actual struggles. They're reflecting characters, fiction.
Well, here's what I'll say about the sports thing. The sports thing to me is just, sports is still at the end of the day entertainment. So like, to me, if you're quoting a sports person all the time, to me it's the same as you being a movie buff and you're quoting a movie all the time, or if you're quoting an anime all the time. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing to me. Just because it's like they're there for entertainment, they're not there to be your role model. I understand what societal pressures and all of that, but at the end of the day, their job is just to entertain you through a sport. So that's the medium that they entertain you through. So with that, yeah. But with some people, what I'll say is I've met some people who never had any positive role models in their lives. And sometimes that the anime that they seen was the only time that they actually got any kind of mentoring. So maybe that's what your little cousins are going through. And then some people, just like what Schnabel was saying, like that's just how they cope. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's just how they cope. And then like that's just like some people can feel the same way about me always talking about my deceased mom all the time. They can just be like, man, just get over it. That's kind of weird. You talk about your mom, like she's, you know what I'm saying? But it's just like, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is.
No, but that's your mom's, you know, you should like,
well, I mean,
can't really get over that. That's
you can't get over that, but I'm just saying it's the same thing. Like some people will feel, it just depends on how you feel about things. So like, if they took those lessons that they learned from I guess Kakashi or whomever, and they became better people through it, then that's fine. You know what I'm saying? Kill two birds with one stone. You know what I'm saying? You still got the maturation at the end of the day. But now if you just lose yourself and that just becomes you, and now you're just detached from, and there's no balance. Like if there's no balance to it, there's nothing wrong with having passion. Because like someone, to me, someone being passionate about, because I played college sports, right? So being a sports fanatic to me is the same as being an anime fanatic. You know what I'm saying? Because to me, it's the same amount of passion, it's the same amount of delusional every year. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with the anime. It's the same amount of delusion. You know what I'm saying? So it just depends on like A, what you find deemable, acceptable, or whatever. And then B, it just depends on like what that person connected to. Because maybe they just connected to Naruto in that way. Like I like Naruto, but I like Naruto for different reasons. You know what I'm saying? It just goes back to why were you connected to this thing in the first place?
But like it's nice to connect, and like we said, you do feel comfort in it. But also, I want to get Chris's thoughts into it. But like, do you guys understand what I mean by when I
Well,
say like
yeah.
if you read an old biography about Napoleon, it'd be like when I was young, I read about Alexander the Great, and then I went on to conquer Europe. Now we got people like my cousin's age and even younger. They're talking about like, oh yeah, man, I totally want to be like Superman. I totally want to be a ninja in Naruto. I totally want to be an orc in World of Warcraft. It's like it's not based on reality, so you can't really build up on it. Like and like also
I,
like I said, I want to have Chris's thoughts on it.
I mean, Napoleon talking about Alexander the Great. I mean, not all of his stories are a reality either, right? Because we don't know the exact history of any of these guys, and he didn't know the exact history. And who knows? Maybe if Napoleon had Naruto, he would have looked up to him. Who knows? Like he didn't have that. Like I get like what you're saying. Like you'd read a biography about this person, they'd say like I would read about this person, they inspired me. But like you're talking in 2023, like how many, especially youths, how many people read anything? You know, like how many people actually even read books? How many people read like literally anything? There's no newspapers really anymore. There's nothing, no magazines that get brought to you. Like there's nothing really to read. You're online, you're watching videos, and what comes most in videos? It's things like animes, or I mean the IPs. We have an episode of Sketching Up that you can go watch on the Stomp Studios YouTube page or wherever you can find Sketching Up podcast. There's we talk about how IPs kind of like have killed, especially movie media. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have that like thing behind you, like Mario or like Sonic or Spider-Man or Thor, like something that's already established, if you're not coming in with that, like they don't even want to like bother with you, you know, like they don't even want to like hear your story, because they know that if you bring, you know, the Legend of Zelda in, it's going to make money. It has a fan base. Like we already know the people that like that IP are going to go see it. So like, why would I bring in something nobody knows about? You have to start a whole new fan base. So to go off what you're saying, like, yeah, some people, you talk about how like Napoleon read about Alexander the Great, but like, first of all, that's closer in history, right? Alexander the Great was closer to Napoleon than Napoleon is to us now. And also, like, how many people are reading anything at all? Like, nobody really reads anything. Like, I just recently read the Mike Tyson biography, and I tell people all the time I read it. Like, I loved it. It was so good.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else I know has read it. And it's not like everyone likes Mike Tyson, but it's because nobody's reading biographies. Like nobody reads any of that. Like, why would I read a biography when I can go get the Spark Notes on Wikipedia, you know? So
Yep.
I mean,
I see what you're saying. But like that's so we can consider that a fact. Like that is happening. People aren't reading
mhm.
and they're kind of focusing more on like fantasy and fiction. So that's a fact. But should
well,
we
I
also consider it a bit of a failure?
I think I think it's a fact, but I think people aren't reading as much because it's not pushed to us as much. Like
Yeah,
the media would rather you watch something. Like how many you're watching something. Let's just say you're watching this and a YouTube ad comes up or something like that. Like the YouTube ad isn't going to be like there's a new book out on blah blah blah, go buy it at your local bookstore if it still
Yeah.
exists. Like, they're not going to say that. They're going to talk about how they're going to say go see the Marvels in theaters now, or like they're going to talk about how Spider-Man 2, like I every time I go on YouTube right now, like 6-second ad, Spider-Man 2 ad, like these are the things that are getting pushed in our face. And social media is so prevalent. Like, all the ads, they're either for something on social media or something like fantasy off social media. So it's a failure in the way of like, that's just not what we're like. This is so distracting. There's a fly going around. You can probably see it in the
we see
camera.
the fly.
Yeah, it's just going around. It's so distracting. I don't know if it's a failure as in the people that aren't reading. I think it's a failure as in like we're more focused on making the money off IPs and other things than like getting people to actually like learn and grow their own knowledge. And people don't get that unless they want to actually do it themselves. Like I have been like victim to this, like scrolling on something. You know, I do a lot with social media. I work in social media. Like, I'll be scrolling on social media and you'll see a quick video, and I'm all about facts. Like, if I watch even a documentary, I have to look up facts about it, because a lot of times documentaries are swing films, but that's for a different podcast anyway.
Yeah.
So I go and I'll look things up, but I've come victim to like scrolling on something like YouTube Shorts or something, and there's somebody that has like a quick 1-minute video about this actor, this military person, this president, this ruler, and like it's a very interesting fact, and then I'll go research them more. But how many people are actually doing that? Like, you have to go out of your way to actually learn things, because if you don't, one, you're not going to learn anything, or two, people are just going to, there might be just false information going around, right? Like, they might just lie about everything that's going on there. So
Yeah. So so is your argument that basically we're being pushed fantasy and cope instead of like actual like solid stories that actually inspire us to be better? Because I've
I think,
noticed, and I want to bring up Steven Universe, which you brought up in this, because my exposure to Steven Universe was my ex at the time who loved watching it. She tried to get me into it, but the thing is, having grown up the way I did, I didn't enjoy Steven Universe because I felt like there was a lot of message and stuff, like more like a lot of lessons learned about friendship and kindness and compassion. But
Okay.
for me, like again, having grown up in the Middle East
Mm-hmm.
and like the stuff I see daily, like poverty and war, for me,
Mm-hmm.
it felt like she was escaping whatever she didn't like at the time. You know, she would just keep watching this show. And like, I look at Steve and I see like a little tubby kid. He doesn't train, he's just given magical powers. And sure, there's some cartoons where he's like given cheat codes to more powers, but he's not exactly building himself up. And I don't know, for me, like, that's not a role model because even like the whole Steven universe feels like a cope. But then when I watch other stuff like old school anime, like let's say, do you guys know Studio Ghibli?
Mm-hmm.
Like Spirited Away, Nausicaa, Valley of the Wind, my favorite, Whispers of the Heart. Like he keeps, sure, there's a lot of fantasy in it. Like there's a lot of ghosts, there's a lot of spirits, there's gods, goddesses, there's steampunk even. But like, you know, it's really relatable stuff. It's like people growing up, it's people like being separated from families, it's people having a lot of darkness, a lot of loneliness. Whisper of the Heart is about like a girl who's growing up and she's realizing the world is changing, and so is she. Like I enjoyed watching that stuff and I could relate to it. But like,
Well, okay, I get what you're saying. So here we go. So, well, the thing with me, I like Steven Universe, and I understand how you grew up. I grew up in the Holiness Church. So, like, do you know anything about like the Pentecostal Holiness Church in America?
is it the one where they sing?
Yeah,
There's a lot
yeah,
of
and
hallelujahs
it's
because
a
I love
lot of
those.
hallelujahs, and like the way that holiness believes is very, very similar to where how Islam feels about everything, or how whatever, you know what I'm saying? So, like, I understand what you mean by some of the stuff that they push, and I get that. But also, Steven, once you get past the first season, Steven does start to learn to cope with all the powers that he's given. Just like I said before, like I could also relate to Steven a little bit too, because Steven to me is similar to Deku. I mean, Deku got literally just ate a piece of All Might's hair and was
Steroid
given these
hair.
god, you know what I'm saying? He got given godlike powers just from eating hair. You feel me?
Yeah.
Like that ain't no cheat. You know what I'm saying? That's the same. I mean, it's the same thing with Naruto. Naruto was gifted with Kurama's chakra. He was a Uzumaki, so he already had an insane chakra pool. Like most of the characters that you grow up with have an OP characteristic about them anyway, just because they have to make them, the longevity for the
Yeah,
story. But I also think with Steven, you just don't relate to Steven Universe.
I can't, man. I can't.
Yeah, well, and I mean, it's fine. I mean, Steven is similar to Steven is what? I mean, honestly, Steven is kind of like Star Wars in a way.
Mhm.
Dude from a different planet, don't know who his real peoples is for real. Like he has an idea, but he really doesn't. So a lot of people come in from space, they're fighting, blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? Fighting for empires and trying to save people from slavery, all of that. It's the same, it's the same trope, but I think it just goes about it differently for how this time is. Because like in our era, it was more about like gritty and more realistic and all of that, because like we were the last of like the analog kids. So like we were the last of like Boondock. Like my favorite shows when I was a kid was Boondocks, South Park.
Oh,
You know what I'm
Boondocks.
saying?
I love
Yeah. So
Boondocks.
like I get you. I understand what you mean by like by when you're like, I kind of can't relate because they're kind of weak. It's just more of that's just the tonality of what today is. Like today, you don't have to be as aggressive or you don't have to be as crude. So I think it's just more of a difference in relatability and what you
But I want
like.
to push back on that a bit, Kyle, because like I
Okay.
feel like in today's world we need to be more aggressive and more crude because I feel like a lot of people have, maybe it's my like Middle Eastern upbringing, but like I feel like a lot of people here have become softer. They're not reaching for their dreams. They're not working on their bodies. Like aside from Chris, of course, we got his motivational story on the on the channel. But like
Mhm.
they're not doing these things. I feel like they're consuming video games, manga, and comics, which says like, you don't have to train. You can just get a power up which does not exist in real life. Like me, what you mentioned, like Naruto, and I don't think Luffy was mentioned, but Luffy was mentioned. And sorry, Luffy wasn't mentioned, but I'm going to mention Luffy from One Piece. I
Mhm.
don't like Naruto. I don't like Luffy. I don't like Steven. And because I feel like it's so unrealistic to assume like these guys, they don't really train. Okay, they train, but like they're just given godlike powers out of nowhere. But I do like characters like Might Guy from
Yeah.
Naruto,
Yeah.
Might Guy
Yeah.
and Lee. I like characters like Zoro, and I don't know oh yeah, I do know the comic book equivalent. I like characters like Batman. These are
I
just
mean, I'm a Batman
relatively
guy.
normal people.
His
They
God-given
Mhm.
worked
money
out, they trained, they learned, they read
and
books,
was
they
really, really
studied. They
rich.
don't have superpowers.
Okay, so here we go. So here's what my slight pushback on this, right? I played sports, right?
Yeah.
Some people are gifted. I've watched people wake up out of bed and just be all state players and put no work in, don't watch no film, don't go to no class, don't play, don't do nothing hard at practice. But they're 6'5, 325 pounds, and you are not stronger and faster than them. I'm gonna just be honest with you. And a lot of times, guess what happens? That comes out of nowhere. Like my strength that I had came out of nowhere. One day my brother was pushing me and I was crying. The next day, he pushed me. I didn't move that far. I pushed him. He got mad because he got hurt a little bit. You feel me? So, like, it can happen like that in real life as well. So,
Kyle
like,
got his God-given superpowers overnight.
oh, yeah, it literally happened overnight. And like it was kind of like everything just started clicking. Just so it's just so like that's what I mean. That's like so I've seen where people got something out of nowhere. I've seen where people were terrible for their first 3 years of high school and college, and their senior year became a beast. And you're like, where did that come from? But you know what I'm saying? So it's just that.
And a lot of people like, or a lot of characters that get these, and you're like, they don't train, they don't do anything. But I think the equivalent to that would be how you see them learning how to use their God-given or whatever given powers. Like that's their like, to us, that would be the equivalent of us training to get that strength. They were given that strength. Now they need to know how to use that strength. Like, that's their kind of training. That's the thing you go through. That's every beginning of superhero or beginning of any hero, right? Like, you learn like they have a power or they have a special ability and they don't know how to use it. And now we're trying to see how do they grow and how they learn how to use it. I think that would kind of be what the equivalent of their training. Yeah, you don't see them working out in the gym, but if you were given super strength, I mean, you probably don't need to go lift weights. It was already just given to you. But like, you might not know how hard you can punch without, seriously hurting, or not. You need to know how hard to punch to knock someone down or something like that. So,
Guys, I want to get back to the original topic.
Yeah.
Because we talked about like potentially people like I don't know, man, like not learning the right lessons, we could say.
Yeah.
But I want to get into also like, what about the communities behind like the fiction verse? Like, we talk about like positive communities like LARPing, but we also talk about some pretty dark and negative communities like the furries.
I mean,
You know,
it depends on how weird you want to be, bro. Like, I mean, anything, we can make anything weird. Like, if it just depends on how you want to spin it, bro. Because like, there's people who's into hentai with all the tentacles and all of the. Then there's people who's into
I'm not
like the
googling
whole
any of
little.
this, by the way.
yeah,
I'm
can
just,
you?
I
He can't
mean,
Google it. Can you explain it in depth?
Don't explain.
I'm not explaining it in depth. No, that's
Do
weird.
not explain it in depth.
But you
So
can. That's what you're saying.
well,
You can
hentai is
explain it in depth.
basically
No, he's
hentai.
well versed. He's made that apparent.
You're well versed.
He's an
Is what I'm
expert.
saying. Like, you know.
Oh yeah, dog. I told you, well many travels, and I've met some really, 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 really weird weirdos, bro.
Yeah,
like I've met some weirdos.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Met
I'll go through
weirdos.
some trauma for you, George. Here we go. So hentai is basically anime with porn. It's basically porn anime. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna see.
Anime.
Yes, it's porn anime, bro.
Paname.
So yeah. So it's really weird. So yeah, there's people who take this thing too far. You know what I'm saying? There's people, I mean, how you tell me on a scale of PG to grotesque, how you want me to go, George?
I don't want you to go anywhere. I'm quite aware of what hentai is. I'm pretty sure people watching this know what hentai is.
You're well versed as well.
Yeah,
Okay,
maybe we don't
George.
have that level of knowledge.
Links
as
below.
you have. No links anywhere below, above, no way. But like, the point I want to get into is that like, even though we can say like a lot of people join together in these communities for like having a safe space or having people to relate to, there's a lot of toxicity behind these communities as well. Like, just because people are dressed as like an animal or like an elven warrior or Superman doesn't mean there's no like bullying behind the scenes, peer pressure, like things like this.
I mean, there's a whole thing with the cosplay community not liking black people cosplaying white characters. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, I'll stand on this because this is my own opinion, separate from Schnabel Studios. Like, it's a you problem at the end of the day. If you're toxic, that's a you problem. Like, you're like, something within you have to work out or figure out, you know what I'm saying? But at this point in time, it's your fault that you're toxic. So like, that's you.
Yeah.
So like, if you're one of them folks, like, hey bro, that's on you. And if you use that medium and you overindulge in that medium to that point to where you're that person, I mean, shame on you, and that just shows your emotional immaturity. At the end of the day.
I think first of all, you didn't have to separate from Schnabel Studios from that.
Okay,
we don't
right.
like bullying at all. No one likes bullying, right? But I will say, like, I don't think it's just that. I think if you have that gang community, or not gang community,
the mob mentality type.
Mob mentality. This is why we're a great team. You just you
the
help me
ninjas
out
versus
so
the
much.
pirates.
But not that. But I mean, like, what's the difference between somebody at a Comic-Con doing it and a bunch of trolls on Twitter going after like somebody on Twitter? Like, it's the same thing, right? Same political parties, the same thing. Like,
is heckling.
Right. Thank you. Like, what's the difference between a section at a baseball game going after the opposing left fielder? Like, it's all the same. It's all the same thing. it's the mob
I mean,
mentality. Like if
I
you're
feel
all
like
in
I'd
that
rather get beat
community,
up by an athlete than a guy wearing like a Jiraiya costume,
I
or like a
don't
guy,
know.
or like a guy in spandex, or like
Mm,
if someone just kicked my
Spider-Man wears
ass and he's got like
spandex.
a waifu, like a pillow waifu, I'd be a little embarrassed. No, no, but I get what you're saying. Like,
yeah,
so that part of it, like the toxic fan base, things like that. It's just, you know, you're going to have your subtypes in every community. Like, you're not just going to have like a whole community of like just nerds or geeks or dorks. You're going to have different personalities mixed up in all
right.
that jazz.
That's
That's
what
Okay,
fact.
happens
so
when this stuff goes
yeah,
mainstream, right?
Mm-hmm.
what's up?
That's what happens when these IPs go mainstream.
Yeah,
Like you
it
get
turns into a
everybody
spectrum.
involved. Everyone gets a say. Everybody gets involved, and you never know
Mhm.
who's going to join the community anymore.
Yeah, so it turns into
True.
like a spectrum. It goes from being a fandom into a spectrum. So you know,
So yeah, so certain fan bases are on the spectrum. You're saying,
mm-mm. There's a spectrum for everything.
okay?
It's just a unit of measurement.
No, I definitely get what you guys are saying. But now I
No,
want
not
to
at
get
all.
into kind of like the final part of it before we actually start about, I guess, potential solutions for these things.
I don't
So
know
if
if I have any solutions, so I don't know if that
well,
part's
we'll
going
try
to
to
work.
come up with some. We'll try to
Oh,
come up with
do
some.
the inner work, do the inner work, do the inner work to where other people
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah, but we're
bother
saving that
them.
for last. We're saving
Yeah,
that.
Bother
We're
you.
save it
saving the
for last.
motivation for
Don't
last.
don't give it away.
Oh, my bad.
I feel like Kyle's the kind of guy who eat the fortune cookie before the main course.
Yeah, bro. Why wait to enjoy your life, bro?
He's got to see if he should eat the. You got to read the fortune. Maybe he shouldn't eat the food.
You feel me? Like,
You
hey,
never know.
that
There's
fortune
no
might say, hey,
situation where you just don't eat Chinese food. You got to eat it.
It
It's
might
in the
say
name.
this Chinese food's gonna make you sick, and you're like, "Fuck,
But like, yeah.
thank God I ate the
So
cookie."
the point I want to get into is this. The last one is okay. So we're into the comics. We're into the manga. We're gaming hours and hours a day. You know, like I'll end up, for example, in my old World of Warcraft days. I don't know if you guys were into that in the past, but like I would play like 18 hours, eat junk. Probably I don't even remember going to the toilet. It's not that I went to the toilet where I was. I just don't remember it. And then like after like days and days of this, I failed my tests at school. I haven't hung out with my friends. I've gained a ton of weight. And then I wonder, where did all this time go? Do you guys feel like fiction is also like taking, or rather to be more specific, too much of a focus on fiction is taking us away from actual self-improvement? Because you know, you can learn the lessons from Steven Universe. You can be inspired by Zorro or Mike Guy. You can like just quote ninjas or something all day. But like if you don't actually leave your bedroom, if you don't actually take your eyes off the screen and go out there and like talk with more people or work or hustle or bodybuild or any of these things, do you feel like the fiction is actually taking away from your life more than it's giving?
Kyle, you got it. Go ahead.
Either or.
I mean, I guess it just depends on how you use it. You know what I'm saying? Like some people, like me, I watch it just so I can turn my brain off because my brain goes a mile a minute and I have 20 different thoughts at one time all day. You know what I'm saying? Like, like I teach school, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm a high school teacher. So like all I deal with is constant interactions all day. So like the last thing I want to do is come home and have constant interactions all the time because I'm also an introvert. So like I can only take, but I only have but so much on my social battery. You know what I'm saying? So I use like I play the Spider-Man game. Like I'll play it, like I'll sit there and talk to Schnabel. And like that's the only way most of the time me and Schnabel get to talk is if we're sitting there playing the game. Because that's the only time we can have some time to sit and carve out just
That or the podcast.
yeah, that or the pod. Like, and me and Schnabel used to talk me and Schnabel used to live together at one point. So like Schnabel is one of my best friends in the world. And I can own most of the time, the only time I talk to that man is if I'm sitting there playing the game. You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm playing Spider-Man, I might call him or he'll call me and be like, bro, I see you playing Spider-Man, boy, where you at? You know what I'm saying? Like yesterday, he was sitting there talking me through how to do Spider-Man yesterday. And I was peeved. Like peeved. Like I was finna tear my apartment up. Like that thing had me feeling away. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm too competitive. I'm not finna let no game beat me, bro. Like I'm just like that. Like we ain't on that.
Them double hearts ain't taking me out.
Boy, stop. I'm a real gangster out here, boy.
You guys got
So
this real bromance going. There's a lot of context
True.
there, not apparent to the audience.
That's true.
I feel
yeah,
like
it's
we
my
If you
for
want
dog.
to, if
real.
you want to, if you want more context, head over to Schnabel Studios and watch Sketching Up. You can see more
Links
of it
down
there.
below. But what about
Links
you,
down
Chris? What
below.
do you think? Do you feel like there is a point where it takes more from our life than it gives us? Because I gotta be frank, you guys seem like some well-adjusted dudes. Like Kyle, you look fit. Chris, you are also fit. You know, you went through that like 200-pound weight loss journey. But there are
Uh-huh.
some people who like just are so into the comics and manga, they go through
Mhm.
a 200-pound weight gain journey. You know, they don't leave the room, they don't get sunlight, they don't get laid. Like, I'm not saying
I,
you have to, but like they're just not going out there interacting. And then if you
yeah,
talk to them now in this new day and age, they have an AI girlfriend.
dude, don't sleep on ChatGPT, man. ChatGPT is the best.
I mean, sure, maybe she gets your diddles going, but like, do you get the point I'm getting at? Like, at what point
Yeah,
do we feel like it's
somebody at least
taking more
told
than
us.
it's given?
Yeah.
No, I think you're kind of talking the extreme though. I think for the most part, people that are like, I personally, I'm not like I'm not like somebody that sits and I can't play video games for more than like an hour, maybe. Like
Yeah.
when I beat Spider-Man, that's like an exception. Like I don't really play. Even when I was just Kyle, we were on the phone for like Kyle and I were like on the phone for 2.5 hours yesterday,
Hmm.
and I think for maybe an hour of it I was actually playing, and then I was editing a
Yeah.
video, and then we were just talking. I made dinner. Like I don't really
Yeah.
play games all that much.
We was doing other stuff. Like, yeah, I
Yeah,
was doing the same thing. Like, yeah, man. I was getting my
but
clothes ready for the
yeah,
day. Like I was eating, playing the game at this, like it was a lot of stuff going on.
but I think you're talking about the extreme, and
Yeah.
it goes back to a point I was talking about a little earlier, where sometimes getting lost in a fantasy land can almost be like an addiction in a way. Like you need that in your life because you're going through something. Like if you, a lot of people that do that are usually pretty depressed. Like this is what kind of like takes their mind off life for a little bit, and you get your mind off life and you're like, oh, this is nice, like I'm not thinking about all this other stuff, and then you just get kind of stuck in it. You get stuck in that world, and the world's like, I never really played World of Warcraft, but I know what you're talking about. Like those online worlds where you can interact with people, like you're just
Like
sitting
in
at a
life?
computer. You're just sitting at a computer, and you're talking with someone else, and this is a real person you're talking with, but like at the same time you're not actually doing anything in life. And like, so I think you're talking one big extreme, and yeah, it can take away from it. And I think people that are in that like just need to find their way out, just like somebody that's addicted to
Hmm.
anything, right? You need to find your way out of it eventually. But I think that's like the extreme example. There are other ones, like I have friends that are, they work, they do other things, they have girlfriends, they have lives, they have somehow have kids, and they play games. They'll get home from work 5 o'clock, play until midnight, and that's what they do every day. They play games, and it's just, again, shut your brain off, just go do something. I don't think they're addicted to games. I don't think it's like they can't live without it.
But like that's the thing about an escape though. Like if that's gonna be your escape, like my point of view, and it is very specifically my point of view, I'm not gonna say it's the general for anyone, but like if you keep escaping, and this is the same with booze, cigs, drugs, and like I told you, Chris, before, like in my case, there's an issue I have. Like when I escape, it's pornography, and I'm working on that. If you just keep staying on the escape, you're still kind of in the same place you are, and you're not anywhere better because you're just like in the journey of escape. There's no end destination. Like with your roommate, maybe he was coping because of Boston. Maybe he had a terrible roommate.
Probably.
I'm just kidding.
We
But
actually
like,
did have a
like,
terrible roommate in that room, but it's a completely different story.
Yeah.
yeah, one day. But like, he spent so much time escaping. Like, did he actually spend some time like improving the situation, moving to some place he liked? And
Well,
yes, maybe this is just the extreme, but like that's what I want to explore with you guys. Like, what's the balance?
well, that's
What's
that's the thing with that
what?
example is like he was placed there for his job, so he can't just be like, I'm gonna move. Like he can only go where
Yeah.
his job brings him. Eventually, he did get out of it because he was in the South, and actually a hurricane came through and kind of wiped out most of his house. And because it
Yeah.
was an emergency thing, he got placed back where he was from. So like it did work out for him in the end, right? And but it's hard to to see the positives and get out of it when you're digging so deep. Listen, I've been in some deep places recently as well, and like getting out of it is a lot harder than getting into it, and you just got to figure out like what around you can get you out of it. So I don't have answers really. Like I can't tell you this is how you do it. So if you're looking for that,
Yeah.
I can't be like this is how you get out of a depression. Like first of all, one, same thing as the weight loss thing we talked about. Like everyone has their own thing. Like so the thing that could get me out of something or get me to lose weight is not going to get you to do it. Like
Mhm.
same thing. So I don't have those answers. I'm also not like an expert in this at all. Like these are all just opinions. So
Yeah, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think you're not cutting yourself enough slack because I look at you and we did have a conversation before about your weight loss journey, about changing your habits. Maybe you're not like an expert with a degree, but like when I look at you, I see proof of concept.
yeah,
So I do
but
value your thoughts on this in terms of like finding that balance between fiction and reality.
yeah, and again, like I can only tell my experience and hope that, and we talked about this, there's the motivation to do it, and then there's the discipline to continue, right? And that's all you
Mhm.
can hope. Like that's all you can hope it does. Like it motivates people or it gets people disciplined enough to go do something. But if I told you, like, yeah, I cut my calories right at the thing and I worked out 6 times a day and I did this, that might not work for the next person, or it could be someone that is only trying to lose 20 pounds. Like everyone has their own ways of doing things. And I think the same thing with, if you might fall into a depression for one thing, and the way that I can get out of it is not the way that you can get out of it. So yes, I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate that you value that, but I don't have the answer of how do you get out of something where you're at that extreme? Because I've personally never really been at that extreme. Like I played a lot of video games when I was in high school, but I don't think it was anything other than I was a teenager in high school and that's what we all did. Like that was just something I played with my friends, but I also played a lot of sports. I also played outside all the time with them, or I went out and did things. Like I didn't just sit in my room for years and never come out and play video games all the time, but I would come home and it'd be like 9, 10 o'clock at night. I'd play with my friends until like 4 in the morning, but that's just kind of like what everyone did at that time. So that was more of like that herd mentality of like, everyone's doing it, so why not me?
Right.
Yeah, like I used to go to my homeboy's house all the time and just play Madden, and me and him would just sit there and talk about life or scheme on whatever we finna scheme on for that day, just playing Madden. So I guess
Yeah.
to me, it just depends on what you use it for. Like, of course, you can be extreme and where some people do take it too far and where some people do lose themselves within it. And yes, they do become unmotivated to do anything. Because, like, I've been there where I've been unmotivated to do anything. Like, when my mom first died, I didn't want to talk to a soul. The only thing I wanted to do was just wallow in my own self pity. Oh, my mom's dead, blah, 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 blah. I'm not too close with my other siblings anymore, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I live far away from everybody. Nobody really cares. Like, I went through that whole little self-loathing thing too. But like, just like what Schnabel was saying, like, it's hard getting out of it. So it's one of those things where like you have to want it for yourself for real. And like that's why I always mean when I say like that's a you problem, because it's like nobody else can do that but you. So that is literally only a you problem. You know what I'm saying? Like that's only a problem you can solve. Like I wish I could solve it for you. You know what I'm saying? I'd save a lot more people. But like at the end of the day, like you have to be like you have to save yourself.
You can only motivate somebody to do so much. Like you
Yeah,
have to be the
like
one to do it yourself. Like
yeah.
it's the same thing to talk about love, right? You can't love somebody until you love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's when I feel like when Kyle's saying it's a you problem, he's not like, no, that's a you problem, not a me problem. He's saying
Yeah.
like I can help you as to the extent, not to talk for you, but I
No,
can
no,
help
go
you to
for
the
it.
extent that I can. But at the end of the day, like you're the one that has to make the change. And it's the same thing we talked about with the weight loss. Like at the end, I could tell you about how I lost a lot of weight. I could tell you how I play basketball all the time. I run 7 miles a day. I could tell you all that stuff. But at the end of the day, like it comes down to, are you going to be willing to do what you have to do to make the change in your life? Like, are you willing to stop eating, fast food all the time, or are you willing to stop eating gummy bears every single day, whatever that might be? I know Kyle also had a big weight loss and he's doing really
Mm-hmm.
well with it. And like,
Yeah.
he's doing a really good job with it. And his big
Looks
thing
pretty
was
fit,
just,
man.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
like again, not to speak for you, Kyle, but he's
No,
lost
no,
a lot
you
of weight.
good.
Big thing was
Yeah.
he had a sweet tooth, and
Uh-huh.
like he didn't cut it out completely, but like he changed his life completely to where
Had
like he doesn't get the big slurp and the candy every single day. Like it's
Like,
moderate now.
I'll tell
I
this,
have to
George.
say, Big Slurp is a purely American thing. We don't have that here.
Oh, bro, let me tell you something, boy. I get you a Slurpee down here, boy. It will change your life, homeboy. But
Me calling it by the wrong name, by the way, completely shows that I do not drink them. The Slurpee is not a big Slurpee. Like Slurpee is like literally a
well,
huge name for it, and I
well,
totally
Isn't it
it's
like
disrespect
called
it.
Big Gulp?
A big
no.
gulp is the
Well,
soda that you can get at the
yeah,
gas station.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's not
like
a thing here either.
it's a different gas station. So like I just call it a Slurpee just because that's what I'm used to, but it's really
That's the
called a slushy.
7-Eleven.
It's
Yeah.
it's a ours is QT, so we call it a slushy in the
Yeah.
south. It's a slushy, but I'll always call it a Slurpee because like a lot of my family is from up north. So like I've lived up north for a little bit. That's how I met Schnabel. I lived up north for a little bit. So like I picked up on a lot of slang.
Or just like what it comes down to is not really the medium, and which is either like
Mhm.
food or fiction or pornography or video gaming or any of that stuff. I guess it just comes down to, are you just escaping to the point where you're just constantly escaping, but you're not really escaped? You haven't escaped.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
yeah, you trapped yourself due to
Yeah.
trying to avoid. So it's like you try to escape. You're trying to avoid with escape, but you end up escaping into a trap. You
Yeah.
feel me?
well, I'll
You know?
I'll I'll defend it because listen,
Go
life
for
is
it.
really hard.
Oh,
It's a
100%.
real like when life really decides to be life in, it's really hard, and
You
you
have
need
to.
that escape.
Yes.
The difference is, can you get out of it? As in, can you figure out how to get back on track, or do you get so lost in it that it's hard to dig out of it? But
Yeah.
man, life is hard. Life be life in a lot. Life
Oh,
be
life
life
be life.
super hard.
Oh,
Super
life
Yeah.
be
hard.
super life. Like
Yeah,
you
but I
always
still
need
feel
an
like
escape.
even though life's hard, like
Like
I
you need an
still feel like
escape.
these discussions are important about like escaping the escape, because just to like take a bit of the spotlight, because I was that tubby kid, in class I would read Harry Potter under my desk and then not learn any math or science or anything. I would play World of Warcraft, lose a ton of money on a ton of real money on fake money, and then just like fail my grades. Like I would just play PlayStation all the time. I would just like read manga all the time. I would like, and I don't think we got into it, but like I would place myself mentally in whatever anime or comic world I was reading. Like I would imagine myself being next to Spider-Man. I would imagine myself dating Supergirl or things like this. And like while it was a nice escape, it did help me like sleep at night at times. It got to the point where I was fantasizing while I was driving, and that's dangerous. It got to the point where I wasn't working out. I was just gaining a ton of weight, and I wasn't making like social connections, let alone even dating. I don't know what triggered it, but at some point I was like, listen, like life sucks. At least in my case, like it kind of sucked. I was bullied a lot, but like even being constantly escaping sucks. Like I got to escape the escape and I got to deal with life. So that's the angle I'm coming in at. And like I get what you guys are saying. Like that's not everyone's story,
Yeah.
but I do want to add it out there because I do hope like some people who are just stuck in this like constant like, I don't want to say fantasy land because that sounds too boomer.
No,
Like
it's a
just this
rut.
constant like
You're
cope.
stuck in a rut. You're
Like
stuck in a
it can
rut.
it can
You're
the
right. Yeah.
cope can also ruin your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's always well, I'll just go back to what I was talking about with Deku. Like, okay, George, I got picked on too, dog. You know what I'm saying? Like I was the kid who got bullied and then I turned into the bully. Like by the time I got into high school, okay, George, I was the jock in high school. I was the over aggressive bully in high school. You know what I'm saying? Like I was bigger than everybody, I was stronger than everybody. If I wanted something you had, it was mine. You feel me? Like that was always was how I felt about it. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever you had that I like, oh, that was mine. You know what I'm saying? So like bullied adults to get what I wanted. You know what I'm saying? Like I threw myself into football because I realized that my attitude that people didn't like me for real. They were just scared of me. So then when you realize people are just scared of you, you kind of like become a recluse a little bit. And then you start realizing like, oh my gosh, like I really don't have no friends. because now that I'm isolated, nobody really wants to deal with me, no matter if I can beat everybody up. You know what I'm saying? Then I just started immersing myself into football, and the football was my entire life. So where all I did was work out. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't interact with nobody. All I did was work out. All I did was just watch football all day to get plays, and all I did was sit there and talk to my coach and trying to see how much better I could get. You know what I'm saying? So like I did the exact same thing you did, but I just took a totally different route. You know what I'm saying? And then
Yeah.
like me being good at football just made my attitude worse, because it just made me more aggressive, because the more successful I got at football, I equated that to, oh, y'all just love me. You know what I'm saying? Because I was a highly aggressive player. Now my play style was super aggressive, and they used to praise me for it. And so I used to think, oh, you love my entire aggression. But no, I had to learn, no, you only like it in this medium. Like there's a time and place for everything. So I think that's the same thing with a lot of these mediums. There's a time and place for everything. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't go all day talking about anime all day. You know what I'm saying? Just like I don't go all day talking about sports. Just like I don't go all day talking about rap music or conspiracy theories, because I like all those things. But you have to be a well-rounded person. You have to be a Renaissance man or person.
So it ultimately comes down to balance.
Yeah, you have to balance yourself though,
Mhm.
because nobody can do that work for you but you. And you're the best person to do that work, because you're the person who knows everything. So
You know you
that's
the
why.
best.
Yeah, you know you're the best and you know everything. So that's why you're the only person who can do it. It's kind of,
Yeah.
it's your own internal battle. If it just depends on how you look at it. It's just perspective.
Yeah.
Ditto.
So, guys, I want to get your final snippet on fiction versus reality. I want to start off with you, Chris. What's your final word of advice for people who like are just engaging in the fiction and coping with the reality?
I mean, everybody needs a coping mechanism. I do it all the time. You know, I read comic books, I watch the movies, I play Spider-Man, I'm a huge Nintendo guy. I love Nintendo. I play Nintendo all the time. It's like I can't really say it. Kyle said it best. You just need balance. Balance it out and find yourself. Find yourself. Find what you love to do and balance it out and make sure you live your life.
Man, look,
For
all
sure. And
I'll
now,
say,
Kyle, since this is your first time on this channel
yeah.
and you are basically the guest of honor right now, what are your final words of wisdom regarding this?
Man, look, just be yourself, but also just make sure that you set yourself up for success, whatever that means. You know what I'm saying? Set yourself up for success, and then find yourself and love yourself, because you're the only you got. You feel me?
Well, I don't know about the audience, but I feel you, bro.
And listen
Love.
to the new Three Stacks album.
100% flutes and good vibes.
So, guys, I want to thank Chris for coming here again. I want to thank Kyle for coming here, and I did enjoy this discussion. Please, to the audience out there, give Chris and Kyle some love. Follow their social media down below. Chris, where can they find you? And Kyle.
All right. You can find Schnabel Studios on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and TikTok. We post there all the time. That's where you're going to find all of our stuff. I host Mad Props. I also host Sketching Up. Kyle is also on Sketching Up, and Kyle hosts Southern Hospitality. But you can find it all on the Schnabel Studios pages. That's where you're going to want to go. If you like listening, though, search either Schnabel Studios or the name of the podcast. You can find it all there as well. That's where you're going to find us. That's where you can interact with us. We love interacting with everybody, so definitely go do that.
Perfect. Links down below. And guys, if you haven't already done so, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the social media, help us get out there. And yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for watching this vid and have a great day.